All right, there we go. Hey, how's everybody doing tonight? I'm Jeff Freeman. I'm your host for the Curse of Oak Island and Beyond live stream, and we got Jack, my co-host, Jack Campbell, here with me tonight. How you doing, Jack?
Fine, Jeff. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I tell you what, this has been an exciting couple of days. I know with the show last night, and then getting started with everything that's going on today. And I had quite a busy day today myself, and that's why we're running a little bit late. I apologize for that, everybody. Running about 30 minutes late tonight. I just had something that came up that I needed to take care of, and but I appreciate your understanding very much. Let's see who. Oh, Deidre's here with us. Hi, Deidre. How you doing? Glad you're here. Jeff Wood.
I got to watch you the other day finally.
You got the what?
I got to watch your show the other day
Oh, I
finally.
know. Isn't that great? I love their trivia show. You guys do an awesome trivia show. That's really cool. And I don't actually click on it, but I look at them and I'm guessing, and sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong, but that's an awesome show. I love what you guys do over there. It's just fantastic. And folks, as you're logging in here, if you get a chance to check out, it's Could It Be Oak Island, and they do a podcast trivia show. They do a summary show. They got a web, a group page and everything. Good stuff over there. You guys are fantastic. Love you guys. Hi, Jan. How you doing? Thank you so much for your synopsis, Jan. Pat, how
Oh,
you doing?
bail me out with that synopsis, Jan.
Oh, I know. Every week I get bailed out by that thing. I swear. Pam Block is here with us. How you doing, Pam? I've made some changes in here, and I moved things around a little bit so that hopefully I can see more of the chat as it goes by. So hopefully that'll work out for me. Let's see. Anne Marie is here with us. You should play. I know. I do play, but I don't actually click and stuff, because a lot of times too, I'm kind of preparing for stuff, but I'm going to. And watch, I'll be like last place. You watch, I'll be last.
You'll be ahead of me, probably.
Oh, I don't know about that. But anyway, I got a different mic. I hope you guys can hear me all right tonight. I'm using a different microphone. It's one of those things, technology, right? So as soon as we've got ready to go and I'm getting everything fired up here tonight, and all of a sudden my microphone's not working. My desk mic, the one I usually have here, and it's not working. I'm like, what in the world? And so I kept trying to try this, restarted my computer, I'm plugging. Hi, Jackie, how you doing? And all of a sudden I'm like, all right, you know what? It's too late. I've just grabbed this other one. I'm using this little other earpiece here, and it seems to be. I hope you can hear me all right. Jackie Murtaugh from Michigan. Hi, Jackie. How you doing? Don Brents. Glad to see you here.
Good to see you,
Sharon.
Don.
Yep. Don's a good friend to the show and the group. Lots of good input. Oh, perfect audio. Thank you, Pam. All right, appreciate that. So yeah, the show last night was pretty good, and I got to say right off the bat, Jack, I was a little bit disappointed because one of the promos talked about, they had, I think it was Steve's voice or something about said some right at the tail end of the promo, and he said, or the one that we had put up anyway on the site on the page, and right at
Okay.
the tail end of it, it said, "Oh, or hold on, is that a tunnel?" And then Jack's like, "What?" And then they cut, and I'm like, oh, "Is that a tunnel?"
And they never put it on the show last
And
night.
they never showed it. I'm like, what's going on? I was crushed. I was like, oh man, I want to see a tunnel because that wood features the thing that I've been really wanting to check out. And
That they found a couple weeks ago, and they've never really said
yeah,
anything about it.
yeah, you're exactly right. And then nothing. I'm just like, oh my goodness. So yeah, that was. Thank you, Ruby. Ruby said sounds great. Thank you, Ruby. Appreciate that. But yeah, I was really kind of let down by that because I really wanted to see what that was all about. Not to say that the paved road area is not interesting. It is very interesting, but yet they didn't talk about this tunnel. And it's one of those things. And it was a promo that we had, and I think Linda, did you find that someplace out there? Or how did that go? Hi, Harla, how you doing? Glad you're here.
I think Linda found it here this evening.
Okay. Yeah, she found it, but I don't know if it was actually something that was out on the where we normally get the promos, or not. But hey, Joe from UK, how you doing, Joe? Glad you're here.
Glad you're here.
Yep.
Staying up.
Yep. Yeah, I know. Gotta be late. Oh my goodness. I gotta hand it to, and I wish we could do this. If I was retired, I could do an earlier show. I really could, but unfortunately, I have to work, so I can't do an earlier show except on Saturdays, and we'll keep that going. And I gotta say, we've got some really good, interesting guests coming up here over the course of the. Matter of fact, I'm going to go through that real quick.
Yeah, but the next 4 weeks after this Saturday,
Yeah,
we're full.
yeah. For the next 4 weeks coming up here, we've got a Saturday show lined up. Let's see, on the 23rd, that's a week from this Saturday, we have coming up, we have the part two of Team Templar of North America. That's Gretchen, Wayne, Murphy, and Sean Williamson. And there may be one extra person coming on. I don't know. We're going to see. Now, I think I can only manipulate 4 on here. I don't know. We're going to work with that and see what we can do. But, and we're going to have Jack. We ran into a little trouble last time because we weren't able to get Jack on, and we thought, well, one of our guests was having some technical difficulties, and I wasn't sure if it was because we also had Jack on, even though he wasn't going to take up a box on the screen, he was going to be audio only. That we were thinking that maybe that was the problem. So I had gone and asked Jack if he would step aside for us so we could try it, and it did work, but I don't know if it was because Jack wasn't there. And then we finally got the show going. We were late, and I didn't get Jack back on. And I apologize so much to Jack for that, because that was not our intention, because I want him to be part of the show. But that's the way it went. But
Jack
this
was a part of the show, still listening. Still listening.
Yep,
Just like everybody else. We had a
yeah,
lot of people that day.
yeah, we did, and that was an awesome group, and a lot of good stuff. And I know I missed so much of the chat, but you
I
know
want
what?
to give a shout out to Gretchen while we're at it. She came back through and answered everybody's question that was posed to her. And
Yep.
that took a lot of work, and I really appreciate it. I know our members do.
Yeah, that was awesome. She really did. And I had mentioned that to them, if they would do that, and she did. She went in there and she went down through the whole all 200 or 300 chats, and she answered everything. So that was just awesome. And that just shows the type of character she is. She's just a wonderful, wonderful person. We love her to death. It's going to be 2 o'clock, Pam. We're going to
Right.
do it. That's Eastern time zone. So it will
There's
be two
somebody on
o'clock.
here that says, disappointed I work on Saturday and missed a great cast, but you can always catch it on YouTube later on
Yeah,
because we do
that's
put
true.
it on YouTube.
Yep. Yep, exactly. So Pam, it's going to be so on the 23rd. I'll run down through this again. Yeah, the Templar chat. Yep. The 23rd at 2 o'clock. They're all going to be at 2 o'clock unless we have to make a change for our guests. But on the 23rd, we got part two of Team Templar coming on. And then on the 30th at 2 o'clock, the next Saturday, we have Carbon Leg is coming on with us. And you guys know who he is. He's the blacksmith and all that. And that's going to be a really good show. And then the following Saturday, the 6th of February, we've got Alessandra coming on. And I know, Alessandra, I have such a hard time pronouncing your last name, but she owns the property where the new Ross Castle, and that well, they have the well on the property, and that stone there that has the Templar uh, cross, but they had a name for it. And Sean and them, they had a name for that. I can't remember. It has a name for that cross. It started with a P, I think. But anyway, the Templar cross, and then the well. When I think it was Tony Sampson went down in that well, didn't he? And
Yeah.
he found that little triangle in, like looked like it was carved in one of the stones down there, which was really interesting. So, but she owns that property. And she's very well. Her knowledge on the Templars is very, very good. So we're going to talk to Alessandra on the 6th. We're looking forward to that. And then on the 13th, and I got this a couple of days ago after working with Laird. We are going to have Laird come on, and I said, Laird, why don't we reach out to Stephen Guptill and see if we can get Stephen on? And so right there, we got a 3-way conversation going, and they said they would love to do it. So Laird, Niven, and Stephen Guptill, Steve, they call him Steve on the show. He said he goes with, we'll call him Steve. So yeah, they say they call him Steve on the show, but he kind of goes by Stephen. So he said, just call me Steve. So Steve Guptill and Laird Niven will be on, and that's on the 13th of February at 2 o'clock. So, and then I'm working on some more. So we're going to try to get some more folks to come on. So we're lined right up for a month coming up. So really excited about that. Oh, who else is logging in here? Susan's with us here. Glad you're here, Susan. Kathy's with us. Oh, I can imagine, Deidre. I can imagine that they are hilarious together. That's what I was telling them when I was talking to them day before yesterday. I said, "You guys are going to be like a comedy show. This is going to be crazy." I can imagine. Yeah, it is great. It is a great lineup. I'm really excited about it. Hi, Robin from Tennessee. How you doing? Yeah, Gretchen is very lovely and very knowledgeable about it. She is just a wonderful person. We just call him Guppy. Deidre says call Stephen Guppy. There we go.
Oh,
I think that might be your name. I don't know. If I can get away with it, I might try it, but I'm not sure I can get away with that. Yeah, we heard about that. You call him Guppy. That's pretty funny. So anyway, so I think we'll kind of jump into the show and we'll go along. But I tell you what, honestly, last week, hi Bonnie, how you doing? Last week, last Wednesday night, I had so much fun just interacting with all the chat. Jack, it was great. And you saw it too. So many people wanted to talk about stuff. I would rather do that. And I'm pointing over here because that's where my chat screen is over here. I would rather do that and talk about the show and answer the questions and share you all have such wonderful ideas. And I would almost rather do that than I would sit here and try to go through, all the stuff that I write up for the show. But we'll get it started anyway, and we'll do that. So, so let's get after it. Now, who says that? A little piece of trivia for I don't have prizes. I don't have the trading cards and books and so I have some books, but on this side, I have some books back there, but I can't give them away, or I don't want to. Put it that way. But we'll let the Could It Be Oak Island show do that with the giveaway and do the trivia. But who says that on the show? Who says that quite often says, let's get after it. All right, let's get after it. Who says that on the show? Says it quite a bit. I kind of picked it up too, but it's kind of a neat thing. But anyway, so I know we're about 15-second delay. So we'll see what everybody says about that if anybody knows. People have to call him that for. Oh, Deidre says that Steve Guptill, he says people have called him that for a long time. It's fair game. All right, I'm going to do it. Rick, nope. Marty, you're right. It's Marty. Yeah, Sharon got it. Sharon Irvin Thompson's got it. It is Marty that says that. He says that quite a bit. He says, all right, let's get after it. All right, so you win. I don't have a prize for you, but you win. All right, how's that? So basically, you see the picture I've got up there. So basically, last night's show started off with right down to the southeast corner of the swamp, which is where I was hoping it would. And there we got Billy and Laird and Rick down there talking about how they want to proceed with things. And so they spent their most of their time looking at the stone. Well, they were calling it a stone feature. Now it's a stone structure. Wall. Yeah, or wall or whatever. But it's a stone structure now versus being a feature, because they've actually been able to clear it off. And as we go through the pictures and as the show went last night, you all got to see that they got it cleared off. And that has to be painstaking to sit there and try to get all that mud out of there. First scrape it off with the excavator and then come back in and try to get all that mud out of there to expose the rocks. This one picture here, though, I like because you see the spot over here on the right-hand side that it almost looks like a hole there. It's actually water is around there, and it's dark colored, it's dark water, so it's not muddy like this water over here. It's actually water around there. But this is that wood feature that was it Peter Finetti and Gary found. Yeah, when they were doing the metal detecting, and he picked up some hits here, and they found this wood feature. Now, I was hoping that they would really get into that, and apparently that's going to be on a future show. But I was really looking forward to getting into that. They didn't. They spent their time working on the stone the stone structure, which is underneath these boards and running this way. And of course, getting together with Billy Gerhardt, they got in here and started working on getting the sides of it cleared out so they could get a really good look at it. And here's another shot, just they were showing them, as they were digging the dirt along the edge. And then Aaron, Dr. Taylor, got in there to get a closer look. And it was really interesting that he was finding so much wood underneath this thing. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I mean, and he jumped right away at that. The minute he saw that it was a stop, I got to take a look at this.
Yeah, he jumped right in there. Guys, it's a good thing he doesn't mind getting muddy.
Oh,
This is for a tunnel. Yeah, I was just also let's see. Also, Craig was back on site. Yep. Craig showed back up, and we'll get to that in a minute. Anne Marie says this could not be a slipway. I believe it is an entrance for a tunnel. I sure hope you're right, Anne Marie. I tell you what, I want that to be a tunnel so bad. I really do, but I don't know. Yeah, the swamp keeps pulling you back in. You're absolutely right.
and for what, 8 years they didn't look at the swamp whatsoever.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, so they were digging along the edge of it, and Rick actually went over and he stuck one of those stakes in the ground. He said, "This is the side, the edge of it, Billy." And so Billy, maneuvered his excavator around to the side so he could reach out and start pulling the dirt along the edge. And you see that little edge right there in front of Jack and Aaron, and they started pulling that away. And then they started finding more and more wood. Now I got several pieces or pictures of the wood here. And again, the pictures of the wood is kind of boring. I understand that, but it's very important, the wood in this along there, because, and then you see the cribbing. He called it cribbing. Right. You're exactly right. Jeff Wood, it says it's support for the stone road. And that's why it's so very important. Let's see. Time to drain the swamp. Yep. Let's see. So yeah, he found this wood, and you see how it's laced together. He called it cribbing, but it's all laced together. You've got the top ones going, right to left, and then you've got the ones underneath the supports. So you can imagine that it was a structure layered of logs laying on top of one another, making like a platform of sorts, I would think. They weren't notched over here, but they're making a platform of sorts. Yeah, Dr. Spooner, Pam says Dr. Spooner wouldn't let Billy dig anymore near the stones or on the stones. Yeah, they didn't want him to tear it up. So he had to dig along the sides to see what he could find there.
I think Dr. Spooner wanted to bring the archaeologist in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he wanted an all stop, bring the archaeologist in. And what is it? What did Marty call him? The dreaded archaeologist.
The dreaded archaeologist.
The dreaded archaeologist. Bring them in and get a closer look at this thing. And there you see him with his trowel, his little trowel. He's got that little trowel. It's about that big. He's down there scraping along to see what that is. But that's his favorite tool. So that's he was out there working on that anyway. So they were talking about that being cribbing. And again, I got a couple more pictures just showing that. And here again is that cross piece, and then the piece that runs along the length of it, of the stone paveway, and then the cross pieces underneath for support. Now this shows a picture. Now this is obviously one of their artist rendering of the stone paveway, kind of showing where it was in relation to the going across the corner of the swamp right there. Hi, Cheryl. How you doing? Let's see. She says, I feel like someone was there at two different times, once around 1300 and again around 1700. Those seem to be the two eras mentioned. Maybe possibly someone came back in the 1700s to retrieve what the depositors had buried the first time. And that
would be Templar. I'm beginning to think Templar on that one.
Yeah, and that's something that Jack and I was just discussing before we got started tonight, that very thing. And I will get to that as we go along, but the dating of the wood in OC1, stuff like that. It's really curious that you could be right. You could be right. I don't know, but you could be right. That's a, that's, like I said, that's exactly what we were just talking about. Um, Tom Burns says, if you were going to build a road with wood, why cover it with rocks? Cribbing support makes sense. I don't know. I think that they would cover it with, the dirt and the rocks, the lumber giving it a support feature underneath, and then the rocks giving you more of a paved road surface rather than the logs. I don't know. If you laid the logs all next to each other, alongside of each other, I don't know. The rocks are going to be more. They're going to support more weight, I would think, stacked up there. I don't know. What do you think? Do we have anybody out there that would have more knowledge on that? Why would they do the logs underneath, creating the staggered, the cribbing, and then the stones on top? Maybe somebody that has more of an engineering mind than I do would be able to say that. Jeff
Maybe
Wood says
the only thing I can think of, maybe to keep the rocks from sinking. Maybe
that
to keep it.
exactly. But I guess Tom's question is, why not just use the logs and forget about it? You don't. I guess that's what you're saying, right, Tom? Is to just use the logs and not put the rock on top of it. But you're right. The logs would be there to keep the rocks from sinking down in the mud and ended up disappearing at some point. Chuck Bryant says oil fields builds roads and swamp from logs and railroad ties. Yep, yep. And I've seen that done
Okay.
up in the UP of Michigan, where I'm from. I've seen that same thing happen up there. When they need to, and there's a lot of swamp up in Michigan. It's probably about the same latitude as Nova Scotia, quite frankly. But I think we have a lot of swamp up there, and they do the same thing when they need to get out into a certain area. They will take railroad ties and they'll lay them out real wide, and they'll just lay them out like a road, and it'll go off into the woods, and they can drive on top of that. So that's a very good point. I don't know. The cribbing would dissipate or
Dissipate the weight, even out the weight to keep the rocks from sinking. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, Dieter, you're right. Yeah. So again, that's the way they did it back then. They put the logs down first, then they put the rocks on top of them, and it distributed the weight very nicely. The swamp is too boggy for just logs. They say that. Didn't they say that makes sense? Yeah, and that's something that I, and Jack and I were talking about also, is that the rocks, or Dr. Spooner had said at the last week, I think it was talking about last week, he was saying something about the fact that when this was built, this wasn't a swamp. But then this week they were talking about the fact that they needed to do that so that they could stay up out of the mud and create a roadway in that muddy area. So that would lead more to thinking that it has been at least a muddy area all along. And back then the road right here at the bottom wouldn't have been there. Obviously this road going around the bottom right here would not have been there. So tide would have been coming through there. So makes sense. Let's see. The swamp, Joe says the swamp is too boggy for just logs. Didn't they say that? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Log roads are in common use in Maritimes. Very true. I don't know. Like I said, we need somebody with a little bit more knowledge of that, I think, to be able to really explain that. Deborah says maybe the rocks were put in on top because they used carts, went over, and they would go over the rocks better. And like that's what I was kind of mentioning when I said be more like a paved roadway.
And if you go back about 2 seasons, I believe, and they went up to that one fort, that one French fort,
Mhm.
and they had that cart up there with the real big wheels on it, if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
remember.
they did. Yeah, yep, I do remember that very, very well. Yep. Yeah, that was the fort they went up to. That's what, 100 miles or a couple hundred miles north.
Right,
Uh,
it's a French fort.
yeah, they went up there, and I can't remember the name of it. I should be able to.
I
I know one of our members will know. Distribute. I know I was having trouble with your word, Deidre. And it's, yeah, distribute the weight. It distributes the weight better. Yes, thank you. I was stumbling over that. Let's see. The rocks would have been more readily available. True. Yep. Can't carry the ark through the mud. Nope, you don't want to carry the ark
No,
through the
can't
mud.
do that.
Let's see. Kathy Peterson says, I thought that the swamp was once a channel through the island and a possible spot where the ships were unloaded. Is it still a possibility that it might find the remnants of a sunken ship in the swamp? Yes, it is a possibility. I don't know how likely anymore. But again, that was over toward the middle of the swamp, and they really haven't done a lot of looking over there. They
They
did.
haven't looked at that anomaly really much at all.
They really haven't, and I kind of wonder why. And yes, Kathy, there has been a lot of talk about the fact that there was at some time they're saying that the island was two separate islands, and it had at least a somewhat of a maybe at high tide it had water
Channel.
in between the two. That is now not. They said, well, it looks like it might have been, and this was something that Fred Nolan was very strong about, the fact that it was two islands, and they dammed it up and created one island out of it. Could very well be. But the thing that I go back to, if Zena's map is correct from 1347, was it?
47.
47. From 1347, if Zena's map is true, in 1347, it's a swamp, and the island is all one island. So you look at that map, and that goes back a long way. So, and dated the wood that Dr. Spooner found in the other paved roadway up north on the other side by the eye was 20 or 1220?
1220? Yeah.
1220. So he said it was created about 1220, which would make sense that it was all one island in 1347 for Zena's map. So I don't know. But again, it's those timelines that we're always messing with there a little bit, that we're not
And
sure.
every time we get a date, it just keeps pushing everything back further and further.
Right. Yep. Let's see. Go back on the chat here. Let's see. Can't carry the arc there. Maybe the rocks were added due to what was being used on it wearing the wood down too quickly. That's a very good point. Very good point. And plus the ox shoes. And I see that Cheryl brought that up too. Cheryl talks about the oxen. So the oxen walking over that are gonna, and with their, especially with their their shoes that they were wearing, that they found many of, they would tear up those logs pretty quickly, whereas the rocks they wouldn't. So interesting thought there. Let's see, maybe something to do with the ox traveling easier. Yep, Sharon, that's exactly it. Yep, I think so. Anyway, it's our assumption. Let's see. Joe says they're keeping the ship for the 15th series. Season 15, they find the ship.
Season 15.
You might be right on that. And that's something that I was going to, I said this on the very first show of the season that we saw in the promo leading up to the start, the season premiere. And he keeps showing Gary finds that golden locket or golden whatever it is. We don't know yet what that thing is, but he found that, and I said, you watch. They're going to wait until the last show of the season 8 to tell us
and
show
us. That about 3 promos so far too.
I know, and they're going to wait right to the very end to show us. You just watch. I mean, they haven't shown it to us yet, so they're going to wait till the very end. And he might have found that before Rick and Marty even got to the island while they were still in quarantine. Who knows? But they're going to make us wait. I just know it. Chuck says sorting out several different puzzles with random pieces. Don't even know which pieces go to which puzzle. Is that true? That is so true, Jack.
It is.
Yep. Sharon says reading Zena's book. Let's see. Love the diagrams in her book. Yep, she has quite a few.
That's one of my reads for this winter. I'm going to try to.
Yeah, I got it right back there. I've read some of it. I haven't gone through the whole thing yet, but it is very, very interesting. Let's see. Yes, it will. It could be. Just goes to show how well they keep a secret. Yeah, I know, huh? Yeah, you're exactly right. With their non-disclosure agreements out there that we've dealt with when we talk to all the theorists and the guys from the show, they have to be very careful what they talk about and what we ask. We certainly don't want to get anybody in trouble. That's for sure. So anyway, so getting back to the pictures here, and we'll just keep going. Thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate all the interaction.
This
And
what makes this show go.
it is, it really is. I love that more than I do anything else. Is just being able to converse with everybody. I know that so often because I still have to work 40 hours a week, that I'm not able to spend as much time on the chat because so much goes on the group page, so much goes by. And then at night I get home, and when I have time, I try to go back and catch up on it. And there's just so much, but I just love it. You guys are awesome. So I had another picture here. This is the one. I thought this one was really cool because, and again, it's an artist rendition of, they were trying to continue digging up into, they were calling the uplands. They had they had Billy over there in the excavator, and he was starting to work the area there, going back a little bit. And then they did, in fact, find that there was wood underneath the stones leading up into the uplands. Okay. So that would give you that obviously this was a road. I mean, you can't look at it any other way. This was a road that was constructed for hauling what we assume carts of something. We want it to be treasure up the hill into the woods, right? So, I mean, why else would they put a road here? It's pretty much, I think it's a no-brainer, quite honestly. Let's see.
And that led toward the money pit.
I think so. Yeah. Well, or up that way. Yeah. The next picture, and again, this is just, they don't know for sure until we see more of it, being uncovered. They show it over here, and the money pit's over here, but I think it actually may end up going over here toward the pine tar kiln and the money pit. I think, because that Gary and Jack, when they found all those oxen shoes, were down here, down closer to where, just above the number 15 showing on this map here, they were finding those oxen shoes over here. So my thinking is they're going to find a path over this way too, and it might connect in with this little road here. They might have been taking an easier route, because what do we have that's over here that is of any significance at all? Nothing that I can think of. In lot 14 or lot 13, I don't really think there's much over there. So I think they were finding the path of least resistance and coming around this way toward the pine tar kiln and the money pit. But that is yet to be determined as they go along here.
Somebody just put up here, maybe there are two roads up there.
That could be. Tom said that. Yeah, Tom Burns said that. He said maybe there are two roads. And you might be right, Tom. You might be right on that. Let's see. So did he win and find out then? Let's see. Might be two roads. It has to go somewhere. Susan says it has to go somewhere. It does. They're not going to have that road just stop right there. It's going into the woods. And depending upon, what that, we don't know back if that is dated. And I can't wait to get some sort of a date on this just to see, how old this was. And I'm sure they'll come up with a date at some point. They'll find something in there they can date. With some of those wood that's underneath it for the logs, they can date those. But get a determination on that, and then find out where that goes, because we don't know how many trees were around in that area when this was all built anyway. Right now it goes into the woods, but we don't know what that was like back 1700s or whatever. So we'll find out on that. Let's see. Has to go somewhere. Don says, does it lead to the spoils or the Serpent Mound? It could. It really could. And that's an uphill trek the whole way too. I mean, you get into lot 15 and it's going up, because that the Serpent Mound is like on the highest point of the island. According
to they said it was definitely going up. It was definitely moving up.
Yeah, they even kind of motioned that way, as they were going up into the uplands. That's why they were calling it the uplands, I guess. So let's see. Yeah, it could be. You could be right, Don. Linda says slipway to get from a ship. Yes. And rock road to get up the hill. Yes. I agree with both of those. And that whole thing with unloading a ship, that again, if you look at this logically, the road being right there, the wood structure that's just off to the right of it, just to the east of it, and they were thinking that maybe it's a slipway. And again, I go back to the same thing I was saying the other night, where you have a ship that's got cargo. The ship if unless it's in a seaport on a in an old seaport where he can pull right up to a dock and tie off to a dock and unload. But if you're going to an island where there's no big dock out there, what are you going to do? You're going to anchor the galleon. You're going to anchor out just a little ways off. You're going to drop your, and I think it was Don or Tom. One of you guys came up with the name of these little boats. You're going to drop the boat like a lifeboat over the side. You're going to put guys on it. You're going to lower down your cargo onto it, and that little boat's going to be the what goes up onto the beach, and you're going to drag it up onto the slipway, unload it onto the roadway, onto the carts, and then you're going to haul stuff up the hill onto the carts, right? I mean, doesn't that make sense? And then you're going to push the boat off the slipway back into the water. It's going to go back to the galleon, load up some more or whatever, and go back onto the slipway. Doesn't that make sense? Dory. Tom calls it a dory, a dinghy.
Ding.
Could be a dinghy, could be a dory. Yep.
I've been called one of those.
I've been called worse. Yeah. Let's see. Oh boy, I've missed some of the chat going by here as I was just talking away. Let's see. Slipway to get from this. Yep, that was Linda. And Tom said built one over the other years apart. Pam says we will probably find lots and lots of lost and found items on that trail. Yes. And that's what Gary said too. Oh, hi Janet. Janet's here with us. Rotary traffic. Like a harbor. Yep. More than a dock. Let's see. Highest point on lot 15. They said that several times. Didn't say the highest point on the island, but it might be. I thought they did say it was almost the highest point on the island where the
I thought
Chuck or Charles was saying that.
Charles was saying that.
I thought he did. I thought he said it's almost the highest point on the island. Maybe not quite, but he said it was really close on the island. I thought. Anyway, I could be wrong. Let's see. I'm gonna have to be able to whisper in your ear. Yes, you. We're going to get that set up just as well as we're going to get the call in. I'm sorry, folks. I've been so busy and I haven't got this set up yet to have people call in. I will get that done. I promise you, it will get done.
You'll get a shot.
I can still give anybody who wants to come on. I can give you a link to the Be Live and bring you on by camera or voice only, whatever, if you want to do that. But I can certainly do that. Let's see. We're going to have to. Yep. Let's see. Yes, they were piled on the spoil. They were piled on the spoils, in my opinion. A dory, yep. A dinghy, yeah, yep. Dory. I've heard that too. Okay, so anyway, and I love this little picture right here, and I know Deborah used that picture too, and we talked about that in the group postings. But this particular picture is so cool because it helps us get an orientation of where everything is according to the lots. And I've talked about being able to take some of these maps and actually lay out the lots on it so we know where things are. We know that the pine tar kiln and the Serpent Mound are both on lot 15, right? I don't know if there's a whole lot in lot 14, but no, the lot line between lot 12 and the borderline between lot 12 and lot 13 is where Corian and Christopher Morford had indicated with the pentagram that was a spot, a feature that, again, like you had said, Jack, we haven't gone back to yet.
No, they had a line break, hydraulic fluid line break, and I never went back after that.
Never went back. We haven't heard a thing of. Well, at least as far as the show is concerned, they haven't gone back to it, and I'm very disappointed about that because I wanted to see more on that. Yep. Yeah, Janet, everybody needs this picture. It's a good picture. I like this one. It's a good one. So moving on from there, and then this shows another picture. Now, this was the actual picture of where the rock feature, the paveway, is going up into the uplands. I snapped this one because this is where Dr. Taylor had said that the logs are actually, now this is running up the hill. So that log you see right here is actually going up the hill toward the uplands. So that's getting you up out of the swamp and up onto the drier ground there. Now, we don't know how much further these go because they didn't show us on the episode last night. but it is going up that way. So this is showing that, and it is definitely ramping up into more solid ground out of the swamp at that point. And this one here, now this is a better picture. I like this one because it's a higher view. And Jack had asked me about a better one. There was another one that was taken from like a drone over the island, and I had it on the show. I think it was last week, and I was trying to find the picture real quick so I could show it again. But you can get a better look at the actual paved roadway here. Now, as we were talking about, with the logs versus the stones, if you see this picture here, now obviously we're not on the ground level looking across it, but you're looking down at it, that looks pretty flat. I mean, that really does look pretty flat. And it's going to be a lot easier to roll that high wheeled cart, like you had mentioned, Jack, across this. Those high wheels are definitely going to go across that with no problem at all, being pulled by an ox.
I think
So,
the other thing that impressed me about it, he said it was 75 feet across, if I remember correctly.
so I think he
75 by 200, wasn't it? Or something, that road, or something like that?
20 by 70. It was 20 by 70. I'm pretty sure it was 20 feet wide, 70 feet long. But that was before they got um, into the uplands area. I'm pretty sure it was 20 by 70. Correct me if I'm wrong, you guys. Let me know. I could be wrong on that, but I thought they said 20 by 70. Um,
But
and
I
I
mean,
don't
you could get probably one pair of oxen going one way, one going the other, just in
mhm.
a
Yeah, it's
constant
wide.
back and forth.
Oh yeah, it's definitely wide enough to run. If it's 20 feet wide, lanes on the freeway are 10 feet wide. So you could easily get a carts going both ways on
Uh,
this.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Jan. 20 by 70.
Yeah, 20 by 70. Thank you. Yep. Um, so anyway, so that and again, we don't know if how far that goes underneath the actual road that's built there now, that the road that goes around to the money pit. We don't know if this extends out beyond that road and goes underneath the road out into the ocean. And then we'll get to see too how far up the hill it goes. And I don't know which way we're looking at here. I don't know if this top part over here on the upper left is the roadside, and then the lower right is going up the uplands. I'm not sure which way is which. I'm not sure on my orientation here. Eh, yeah, I don't know for sure which way it's going there, but I think this top left is by the road, and the bottom right is going up the uplands, I believe. Yeah, yeah. Deidre says
Yeah,
20 by
20 by
70. Yep.
70. I don't know where I got that one from.
Yeah. So but still that's huge and that's wide because like you said, it's wide enough for two-way traffic. So pretty amazing. And again, it's one of these things that if they're thinking it was built in the 1700s, I would have to think. Well, again, I'll get to this as I go along here because I have this feeling, talking about the Templars being there in the 1300s, maybe if that's what it turns out to be. And who did all this work in the 1700s? We got, like somebody had, and I forget who it was, had mentioned there's two different eras that are really Kathy. I think it was Kathy, two different eras that we're dealing with here. Main era. I mean, there's stuff they found artifacts that go all the way from the 1200s to to modern day, but those are really the two significant eras.
Right. Linda corrected me. The other stone area on the opposite corner is the much bigger one. I had the two of them turned around.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yep, yep, yep. Linda's absolutely right. This shot here, I grabbed this one because it was interesting that it looks like, is that table up there? Is that the table where they go through the spoils? Or is that just a table they're laying out using to lay out stuff? I thought this was the table where they're putting spoils on it. And then Linda kind of got mad because she, on the show last night, they broke out the fire hose. There's a guy with the fire. Now he didn't have it cranked right up. He did have it pretty low, but he was using the fire hose on the wash table. And Linda made a comment about that. She said, "I thought they said they weren't, Laird. Laird said they were going to use the hose no more, the fire hose, to clean it off." But there they were with it. I guess the guy's name was Mike. The guy that found the actual spike there. Let's see. The other side. Yep. Okay. There have been
Yeah,
military.
going back to the road here for just a minute,
Okay.
Jeff.
All right.
The one thing I think they have to do, they've got all this road over there, and they did all that work diving out there, out in the ocean out there. I
Oh,
think they have to go back to see where is there a connection.
yep. Yep. You're absolutely correct, Jack. That is absolutely right. And I'm glad you brought that up because we know that Dr. Spooner found something out there or seen, they speculating by the pictures of
And
the
Tony went down, but he couldn't see real well.
right. And then we had Tony out there, right? And he couldn't. He said it was clear, but and he didn't really see a whole lot. But you're absolutely right. They've got to get back out there and take another look at what's out. And I hope they do this year. I don't know if they made it out. I don't know that they made too much headway on the other side of the road in the ocean, other than what they did with Tony on Tony's boat and went out there and dove it. But you're absolutely right. They got to get out there and find out what this leads to and see what the connection is. That's what Don agrees with you too. Don said, "Yep, got to check the water. Got to get
Because
out."
they saw stone down there and a piece of wood
Mhm.
also.
Yeah, yeah, and
Now,
I've got that picture. Let's see here. Let's see if I can find it here. Hang on, bear with me 1 second. I'm gonna see if I can find that picture real quick. Let's see. Yeah, that picture when Tony went out there and he dove off the coast. Now he found, we saw the picture of the rocks that he found down there, but
found a piece of wood too, if I remember
he
correctly.
also found this right here. He found that piece of wood right there. Well, it looks like a piece of wood. It might be a weird rock, but it looked like a piece of wood. And he was running the metal detector across it, and he didn't get any hits that we know of. But that was right out there by that rock feature in the water. So, wasn't there a road or a reef showed in the picture? Yeah, Don, there was. It was out in the water, and it's a reef. And I don't have that picture handy, but I can bring it up. But there was definitely a ridge that runs right off it. And I'll bring it up before we get done here. I'll bring it up and show you. Let's see. I was looking back at the. Oh, Joe says the hose really annoyed me too. You're right. Everyone but us has been. The fire hose is Jack's job. Yeah. Still no parchment left. Yeah, exactly. Because they're going to blow any piece of
They're going to
parchment
blow that
out.
away.
Yep. The spoils table. Yeah. Wash table, spoils table. The other stone area. Okay. Yeah. Yep. All right. So I've caught up there. Let's see. This is the table for the samples. Yep. Get Tony back out there. I agree. Yeah, Tony, if you're with us here tonight, you got to get back out there. I know Tony joins us sometimes on here. We got to get you back out there. Maybe he did. Maybe he did go back out before the season was over, and hopefully we'll find out. Let's see. I wonder how close it lines up. Don, I agree with you. I want to know how closely that lines up. There was the one picture they were showing of the square feature out in the ocean, and it showed it more in the middle. Now, if you look at the roadway that goes around the bottom of the swamp, they were showing that square feature kind of out in the middle, off the middle of that roadway. If you look from both bottom corners of the triangle swamp, it was kind of in the middle. This would have to be more over on the eastern side, off the southeast corner. If it ties in, something over in the middle is not going to really tie in, I don't think, but we'll find out, I guess, as we go along. But anyway, I wanted to show that picture because, Jack, you're absolutely right. They've got to get back out there and they got to find out what this is. I want to know. I want to know what it is. I really do. It's very important, I think. Let's see. Let's see. Sharon says Templars executed in 1300s, all kinds of travel this way in the 1600s, and with so many stories passed down, maybe it was the right time. And I am sure many Templars survived. Oh, I am too. I agree with you, Sharon. I totally believe the Templars survived it. Rudy Judabush says, in the old stories of the money pit find, They tell of seeing remnants of an old road to the west end of the island. So
Really?
you're thinking maybe you're talking about this road that they're uncovering, be part of it, maybe? And there could be more than one road. Why wouldn't there be? Um, hmm. Yep. Tom Burns says,
Morris Island comes into play time after time.
"Oh, I know it does." Hey, you got who mentioned that? Was that Dustin? Dustin White or Deidre? One of you said something about Tony's trowel or something. Somebody, maybe it was on the show. Maybe it was on the show. They talked about Tony's trowel. I think maybe it was Gary that said that. Or it was talking about Billy's trowel. I'm sorry, Billy's trowel, which is the bucket on his excavator.
Uh,
He's got a big old trowel. Yeah, that was pretty funny. Yep. Hashtag Billy's trowel. Yep, that's pretty funny. Yeah, that was Deidre. Oh, that's hilarious. Let's see. Laird. Oh, Linda says Laird said that they did that a couple of years ago. So anyway, I wanted to show that picture because that was pretty interesting of that off the coast there, that board, and then the rock. He did find a flat feature with a lot of rocks, like what we see right there on the paved roadway. Certainly looks like it was some sort of a roadway or a rock feature of some sort. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah, Billy's trowel. That was Gary on this episode. Yeah, Billy's trowel.
yeah.
Billy's trowel. That's hilarious. I couldn't stop laughing when I heard that. That was great. So anyway, back to the guys there on the wash table, and apparently they're going through the spoils there, looking to see if they can find anything more significant, than just going over it with the metal detector and using their eyes. And Gary did find that piece of pottery, and he also found the piece of coal, charcoal. No, it was actually coal, not charcoal. He found a good size hunk of coal. And you can date that, but that could have a date of anything, and it's not going to be significant to the search because it doesn't show when it was. I mean, coal could have been around for thousands of years. So that's not going to give them any good answer on that, unfortunately. Yeah. Pam says Billy would be great as a guest, and I have reached out to Billy. We'll see. It would be nice. It would be nice. I'd love to have him on, but we'll see. And then it was they were talking. This is the pine tar kiln, and it's a little bit better picture. They've done some more scraping or cleaning of it, and you see it is quite a feature. That's quite a feature they have going on there. Tom says there was some sort of a road when Oak Island was made up of different homesteads. I think yes, it had to be. I mean, yeah, and we know that Samuel Ball owned several pieces of property there, and he plowed. He worked that land with his oxen, plowing, and I think it was Laird that said there's a lot of evidence that shows that Samuel Ball did a lot of farming on the island, a lot. In several different areas. So they would have cleared the trees out. They would have plowed that land, and cabbages, was it cabbages or something?
Cabbages. There was like three lots that he did for cabbages, 31, 32, and 33, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yep, something like that. So so there would have been there had to have been at least paths or cart paths or something going through there. And maybe he was using ones that were found from previous years.
Welcome, Wanda.
Oh yeah, Wanda's with us. Oh wow, you didn't miss us. All you made it. Let's see. The picture. Linda says the picture is the core table. Oh, is the core table. The guys from Billy's company are not in that picture yet. Let's see. That's okay. So anyway, so there's the pine tar kiln. I wanted to show that picture. That was really neat after they got it cleaned up. I grabbed this picture here. This one here is pretty cool. Golden cabbage. Yeah, he was growing golden cabbages. That's for sure. Yeah. Tom said golden cabbages.
Golden cabbages.
Yeah, he definitely he wouldn't have needed to do the farming, I think, because I'm pretty sure he got into some of that treasure. But here it shows that here's the roadway, the stone roadway, and it going up into the uplands right here. And we don't know just where it takes off from there. Um, but we see that. Now, I thought this was interesting. And the reason I grabbed this picture is because look at the size of this area that they've cleaned off. They were working over here on the top of this picture, over here where the wood feature is over here on the very top right. That's the wooden feature that they think is a slipway. Yeah, lots of sauerkraut. I hate sauerkraut. I know people love it, but I cannot stand sauerkraut. And you know, around here in Western Pennsylvania, they eat a lot of sauerkraut around here.
I'm with you there, Jeff.
Oh, they put it on everything around here. There's a restaurant chain out here called Permani Brothers, and they put sauerkraut on everything. So anyway, you got the wood features over here that they're calling the slipway. And then over here is the stone paved way, which we know, probably extends out underneath the actual road that's there now, the dirt road that's there now, and goes up into the uplands. But look how far they've cleared this area out right here. What in the world are they looking for? Were they looking for more of the stone paveway going over here? I just thought this was interesting to see they're really heading towards Nolan's little peninsula that Tom Nolan had. Tom Nolan had built out there going into, or Fred Nolan had built going out into the swamp, that little peninsula he made. They're heading towards that with this clearing here. And I wonder what they were actually looking for. If they're looking for more of the stone paved way or just looking for anything, in particular. So I just thought that was pretty interesting to see where they're headed.
I think this is the year they want to, if they're going to do the big dig, I think they want to get the swamp as much of it out of the way this year as possible.
Right. Yeah, you could be absolutely right there. That's for sure. And that does make sense. Why not? While they're there and they can't do the big dig, scrape this sucker down and see what's there. That's a good point. Very good point. Looks like the partial plywood sheets to the right, so you can see how big it is. Yeah. Those are probably what, 2 feet wide by 8 feet long? Those pieces? Yeah, I think those are about 2 feet wide because you see somebody standing. And it looks like it's probably Rick. If I can get my mouse over here, there's somebody standing right here. And it looks like it might be Rick, and he's standing on that. It's like about 2 feet wide and about 8 feet long. These sheets of plywood. So, yep. Maybe looking for a roadway. Yep. Yeah, 8 feet long, or a parking lot.
I like that.
Maybe Fred was on an old roadway. Yep. Could be. But anyway, that's why I wanted to grab that picture because I just thought, man, that's really interesting that they're heading way over here. And somebody's walking right here too. I know it's kind of a grainy picture and I apologize for that, but somebody's standing right down here too, looking at something. And he's walked out onto something sticking out there. He's maybe standing down in the mud, but anyway, I just thought that was interesting that they are really taking off over here, looking around this area. And then, Gary got to work with his metal detector, and he went over there and he was checking the spoils pile that was Billy Gerhardt was piling up over on the side, and he got a hit, and then he found what he's calling a copper coin. And again, this thing, you saw the pictures of it last night. You see how corroded and everything it is. We can't really tell what it is, but he was saying it was a copper coin. So pretty interesting, and I'm really going to be curious to see when they get this thing cleaned up, and again, what kind of age is this thing going to have on it if they're going to be able to date it.
But Gary said early 1700s.
Yeah,
on the show.
And again, we're back to the 1700s again, aren't we? So that was one good find, and again, we'll see what comes up there. And then he also found this little doodad, which he is calling a ox shoe nail for the ox shoes. And it looks like it might actually have a little piece of the actual shoe or the actual hoof on it. I don't know what that is, but it's a chunk of something right there. Hopefully it's not part of the actual oxen's hoof, but or maybe it's just corrosion. But that was pretty interesting. And again, that goes right along with it was a roadway and it was used for the oxen. It can't be for anything else. Just
No,
think
and
about
they were using it year round too because they were finding summer and winter shoes.
it. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. So it was being used year round. So I think that you put all the pieces together. The ox shoes that were found up in lot 15 in a path in a row, making a pathway now down to the roadway, down in the swamp. And they said up there, and I remember distinctly, Gary had said, this is heading right for the southeast corner of the swamp. He said that when he was talking about how those ox shoes they were finding were leading them that way. And now we're finding the evidence of the oxen on the roadway down in the swamp. You put all these pieces together, and the way that the road is heading, the direction it's heading, can't be. I mean, it's pretty logical. I think you tie all those pieces together, and it means something. Janet says, I wonder if they had to cover all the work back up that they when they left for the season, or did they leave it open? Would be a lot of work to uncover it again. You're right, unless they had fully solved the mystery and dated the wood. That's what I want to see. I want to see them date that wood, that those logs that are underneath the rocks. I want to see them date those. And if they date those, do the dendrochronology. Is that what they call that? Dendrochronology.
Endocrinology.
So if they can date that wood, then they can get it dated. And once they dig it all out and they've pretty much got to the end of it, they at that point, yeah, they could cover it back up. But I thought they were saying, and they took piling out there, sheet piling, was loaded out there. I think there were about 20-foot lengths, 20-foot long lengths of sheet piling they took out on a semi right at the Karen Public Cover got us a picture of them coming across the island with those
Right at the end of the year.
Yeah, it was right at the end of the season. And they were taking those across and over, and they parked that trailer and dropped the trailer in the money pit. I did not see any evidence of them actually had put those sheet piling in, but they had talked about putting those around the area to block off this feature, the wooden feature, so that they could dig that all up and get a better look of it at it. And then Rick had mentioned you got to be very careful because if they drive those in, they might
You
actually destroy.
drive into something.
Right, they might destroy some of it. So that's very important. But I don't know. Well, we'll have to see when the season wraps up here. We know we saw the drone footage from October. I think was the last one that we saw, and that did not show the sheet piling in, and it didn't show it covered up. It was still open at that time. So I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll just have to see.
Linda just said here it was a real dry summer up there, so they could get a lot done too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. Yep. Yeah, no, that's exactly what Linda says. Check out the drone videos from October. They're on the internet or on YouTube. So it was a really dry summer. Yep. Judy says, I can imagine how hard it was for an animal to walk on all those rocks. No wonder the shoes came off. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It would tear them up really quickly. Yep. Let's see. I was told the best way to preserve it is to cover it back up. I mean, look how well preserved it is anyway in the swamp. I mean, they had everything covered up with that muck and everything and the seawater for all these years, very brackish water anyway. And everything's well preserved. I mean, that lumber down there, if that's from the 1700s, I mean, that's better than, we see 2x4s getting rotted out in the, pretty quickly around a house and stuff. These, from leaking, it would get rotted out pretty quickly. So that's well preserved down there. Let's see. That's what my friend said when I asked him about the shoe nail. Oh, okay. Yep. Let's see. Last night, Sharon says, last night I saw some summer scenes and some colored leaf shots. Yeah, I know. They jump around all over though. We know that they do that. They do. They jump around all over the place on these scenes. And that's why I was saying, no matter when they found that gold locket or whatever it is that Gary found, it don't matter when they was, it's going to be on the last show of the season. Oh my goodness.
Just like Marty's tuning.
Yeah, exactly. Marty's tuning. anyway, so then he found that. So Gary found a couple of nice little pieces there that I'm sure we'll see more of things that he may find in that area. But I'm sure there's more to find, and that's going to be really help. It's going to be helpful to piece it all together. Here's the wash table where the guys from Billy Gerhardt's company were helping to go through the spoils, and these were the spoils from OC1, and they've got them piled up in a certain area, so they could keep going back with the Bobcat and picking up the skid loader and picking up bucket loads of that and bringing it over here to the wash table and dumping it out, and then they go through it very meticulously again with that fire hose blasting away on it, you know.
Look at this fire hose.
Yeah, and so, but again, I saw the pressure on the show. You know, you saw him on. You know, he didn't have it on a lot of pressure on it. He was kind of keeping it mild. So, but I think that this guy's name was Mike. They had both of them got named, and I'm sorry I didn't grab that. And I don't remember what their names are.
Jack, Michael, and John Winter. I
Look
think
at
I.
you! All right, way to go, Jack. Jack got those names. That's awesome. Mike was the one that spotted the spike, and there it is. There, got a picture of it, and it's got that rose head. Your blood pressure. Linda said, "Oh, my blood pressure. What? Is your blood pressure okay?" The rose head spike right there that they found. Mike picked that out of the spoils there and picked it up. And then Laird came out and looked at it, and he said, "Yep, that's definitely rose head." And he dated that again about 1700s, and that came out of OC1. Now, the thing that's interesting about OC1 as we move along here. Oh, there I got a picture of it.
Okay. Thank you, Linda.
Yep.
Her and the hose.
Oh, that's what her blood pressure going up because of the water. Okay.
I'm glad she put that up.
Yeah, she's about ready to go over there, I think, and just grab them guys by the collar. What are you doing? Shake them around a little bit. You're going to blow every little piece of parchment right out here, or book binding, or whatever they might find. Hi, Janet. How you doing? Janet says that gold rock they keep showing from the last Halloween pirate party they had on the island, maybe hidden for the kids to find. Let's see. Didn't think they were that dumb. Water pressure. Yep, that's for sure, Pat. And again, I don't know. I would just take a bucket, and I would just kind of pour it over there and let it, kind of rinse it, pour it over, rinse it. And wouldn't that make better sense? Might not be as easy, but you wouldn't be blowing little pieces of parchment off onto the ground that you'll never find again. You're walking on it in your boots. I don't know. Let's see. Pam says, just like the first episode of the season where Marty and Rick and Maddie were standing in front of Billy's rig, they and never really followed up on that scene. I know they do that so often, and that really, sometimes I just, it's like, wait a minute, yeah, go back, let's talk about that. You found something, but again, it must not have been important enough. But yet they showed that coin that Gary found. He said, "Oh, a coin!" That was on the promo, and then what he pulls out a coin. It's from 1919, and it's kind of like this one. I've got an older coin here, if you can see that. I've got several of these. This is a silver dollar, and mine's better than Gary's because this one's from 1886. So there you go, Gary. Your 1919 coin. But anyway, so yeah, they do that to us sometimes. They pull that stuff out and they they show stuff and then we never hear about it again, and that just kind of aggravates me sometimes. But anyway, so anyway, yep, there's a picture of the and I may have got my pictures out of order here. I was hoping to head for the money pit, but I got a picture of the Serpent Mound there, or the mound that may not be a Serpent Mound now. Let's see. A lot of wood a lot of wood is searcher. Yeah, it is. A lot of it is searcher. You're right. You're exactly right. And that would have to be so hard when they're pulling up, when they were going down over the hammer grab and they're pulling up wood out of the money pit area, in the caissons. It would be so hard to be able to determine, I think, what wood is this you're finding? is it wood from the searchers or is it wood? And they would have to actually do dating on it. Remember Dan would just smell it. You can tell by smelling it. Well, maybe Dan could tell by smelling it. I know I couldn't tell by smelling
I
it.
know I couldn't.
Let's see. Where does that term, Sharon asks us, where does that term rose head come from? Does not really look like a rose. No, it doesn't, but it's the way they hammered out the top of it. And I don't know where that name actually came from, but it's the way they hammer the top of it out, and it's got different facets or of it. And I guess that the second one that they found up here in the Serpent Mound area had more of a it looked like it was broken. That's what they thought at first. Somebody said, but it kind of flared out, pieces on it. Maybe that's where it had that rose head. And after you hit it for a while, it bends those around. I don't know. Maybe somebody can get us, maybe somebody in our chat here has a better description of that.
Linda just said we'll have to ask Carmen that.
Yeah.
She would be the one to
Oh,
ask.
Carmen will know. Make sure one of you guys ask Carmen that. I will try to remember on my notes to ask him about that. I'm going to write that down. Rose head spike. Why rose? All right. I got my Carmen leg notes for when he's coming on. All right. We'll ask him about that. Who asked that question? Sharon. Sharon, I'm going to tell him that you're asking that question if you don't mind. All right. So yeah, that's a great question. Why do they call it a rose head? But anyway, so that's we found that the interesting thing about those spikes, and they found two of them. They found one in the spoils of OC1, and they found one up at the mound. Now, because of that, they were saying that after they had these tested, and I didn't get the lady's name that's at the lab that tests that kind of stuff.
Hang on here.
I got a picture of her, but I don't have her name.
I
know you and Linda.
you got out of whack on me here.
I know, I did. I jumped. My pictures weren't in order. I'm sorry.
Krista Bruno.
Okay. Yeah, she dated these about the same, and the material makeup of the steel that was used, no magnesium or very little magnesium.
Very little.
Yep. Indicated that they were made about the same period. So you date them somewhere in the 1700s. And so she's saying they were probably made at the same time. Oh, Krista, yeah, you're right. Krista Browsard. Browser.
Either I can't pronounce it or my writing's bad. It's probably both.
Yep. I know mine is pretty bad. Let's see. Wanda says, Marty tickled me. Really? He knew the swamp was important. Yeah, I know. I was going to bring that up too. When he said on the phone, he was on the phone with Rick and everybody when he was on speakerphone, and he said, yeah, he said, I was all for staying out there, and he was telling Rick was the one that you wanted to give up on, and I wanted to stay. That was pretty funny. I got a good kick out of that too. That was hilarious.
She also wanted to do more testing on those two things too, to see if it was the same recipe and everything else, to really see to be able to pin it down.
Yeah, and we may get more information on that. That'll be really interesting to see. Let's see. Chuck says old pics, video showed peeled logs, rocks, etc. Yep. Let's see. Someone coming back to recover. Jan replying to Sharon says after it's been hit by a hammer or sledgehammer and pounding that down. Yep. Makes it look like a rose, I guess. But we'll ask Carmen. Well, yeah, and that's what Linda says. We'll ask Carmen. Mary says, I got a hoot out of that too. I did. That was so funny when he said, when Marty was saying that he always wanted to stay in the swamp and Rick didn't want to. And it was just the opposite, because Marty hated the swamp. And Rick was so right, wasn't he, when he said that?
Rick said that all along.
He has said that all along, that swamp holds more answers, and he wanted to get to the bottom of it. And he said, so glad that nobody, that Marty was the only one that really wanted to give up on it, and everybody else wanted to stick with it. So, Brusso. Okay, Brusso. That's how it's pronounced. Yeah, Linda says Brusso. Thank you, Linda.
Okay. I
Yeah,
knew
Linda's
I
so
was
awesome.
close. We'll put it that way.
Linda's so awesome. Because of its enlarged rounded head, and talking about the rose head on those again. Yeah, the driest. Oh yeah, Linda says the driest I've ever seen in New Brunswick, and I am retired. Let's see, Doctor. Yep, Brusso. Brusso. All right. Um, Tom says regarding Marty's comment, then the boss is not always right, but the boss is always the boss. You're right.
Yeah,
The boss is not always right, but he's always the boss. You're
there's
exactly
the boss.
That's great. You are certainly correct. Yes, you are. Um, must be it must be so filled with mosquitoes. Oh yeah, the swamp
Oh,
is. You never see them swatting at them, so they probably put a lot of we used to call it bug dope. Put a lot of bug dope on DEET or whatever. But you got to imagine they do, because there's got to be a lot of mosquitoes, and that was like something that I'm sure Gretchen had brought up. When she was in Wisconsin and they were looking at the stone feature there, she talked about on Saturday. She had mentioned in her book about the mosquitoes and stuff. And being from the UP, I had a T-shirt when I was a teenager. I had a T-shirt, and on the front of my T-shirt, it had a great big giant mosquito, and it said the Michigan State bird. And that's so true, because I tell you what, the mosquitoes up there, they would pick you up and carry you away. If you fell asleep in the woods, they'd suck you dry like a vampire. Um, yeah, yeah. Have you been to up north Maine? Yeah, Sharon says, yeah. I would
yeah.
imagine, because any especially swampy areas, because they love the swampy water, and that especially like
Standing water.
standing water that gets stagnant. They just, man, the larvae go in there, and I tell you what, it just produces mosquitoes like crazy. And yeah, we got a lot of them in Michigan. And the wetter the season, the more there are, and the drier the season, the less there are, because they need that water, moisture. You should see them down here. Where you at, Wanda? To get so many maritime.
I want to say Mississippi, but I'm not going to sit here and.
Yeah, Wanda. So see, you got quite a few down there, do you? It's the wetter areas. They love it.
When they were talking about all that, Jeff, about the two nails and everything, and Marty said that maybe that mound was the spoils from the money pit.
Right. And
And
you're right. Yeah, go ahead.
and I could see it, but I go back to the last week or 2 weeks ago. Why would you build a mound and have a circle in the middle with nothing there?
Right. I know.
I
I
mean,
don't know. I don't know. Unless they were just messing around with it. But I think the thing that, and here we got kind of conflicting things. When they found the charcoal, when Dr. Taylor, Aaron Taylor found the charcoal, and they had the charcoal dated, and it dated about the same time as Zena's map, or the Templars 1300s coming on the island, right?
right.
Didn't it? The charcoal dated in around the 1300s. So you've got that date. But then Gary goes out there with the metal detector, and he finds a spike, and the spike is going to be probably dated somewhere around the 1700s. We think, we don't know yet, but somewhere around the 1700s, and it ties to the spike that was found in OC1. So that leads him to say that maybe this rock feature, all these rocks and everything that are here, are just spoils from the original digging of the money pit. But if the money pit was dug in the 1700s, what the Templars wouldn't have done that in the 1300s then. And again, these dates, this is what I really, try to get I try to get straight in my head. And I tell you, and there's more leading toward the 1700s that I'll bring up in just a minute, but I don't know. I'm really confused by that. What do you guys think? I mean, I'm really confused by that. Wanda
I
says,
know Aaron really wanted to see what more artifacts were around that mound before he was not willing to give up on that one.
right. You're exactly right. Yep. Oh, Mississippi. Down in Mississippi is where the mosquitoes are at. Pat too. Yep. Yeah, you would know guys living down there for sure. And you get probably have them year round, where in the wintertime they go away. In Michigan, you don't have them, which is nice. That's the best thing about winter. There's no bugs. And we get a lot of them. They got a lot of them up there. Let's see. I lived in, oh, Linda says, yes, indeed. I lived in New Hampshire and Maine and New Hampshire border for our house backed up to a bog.
Oh,
If you're near a bog, you got lots of mosquitoes.
you got a lot of problems.
Yep. Let's see. Tom says, I think Marty is right. Let's see. Linda says, bringing in the big carts by oxen and dumping them. Let's see. Bringing in big carts by oxen and dumping them came. I wouldn't have a way to make a tall hill of spoils, and those carts were unwieldy and needed space to turn around, in my opinion. Yep, you're right. And that could be. That could very well be. Those carts could have been going up there and dumping them. And they might have decided that, why would they have taken, that's what we were talking about too, is why would they have taken them uphill? Why would they put dirt on top of it? Again, that's what Aaron said. Why would you pile the dirt on top of those rocks? Maybe it was rocks and dirt. I don't know. And then the rocks fell out first and then the dirt, on top. But you're right. You're not going to continue to make a bigger and bigger mound if you're dumping it from an ox cart. You're going to go to the end of the row, dump, go back, go to the end of the row, dump, and it's going to eventually make a line. And they didn't care about it having a feature. They just dumped it. But maybe there was dual purpose. Maybe they were taking the spoils and dumping them and trying to make some sort of a mound at the same time. I don't know. But again, if you remember, I was talking about those rocks are not far from the boulderless beach. Why is it a boulderless beach? Because they took the boulders off the beach and put them up there? I don't know. Yet to be determined. I know, so many questions, right? Pam says the Serpent Mound could be a projector of something hidden in plain sight. Or protector of something hidden in plain sight. Could be. You might be right. Tom Burns says they could have used spoils to build the mound in the 1300s. Yep. Chuck says the whole island is being torn up, moved around, has been torn up and moved around. And in many ways it has, Chuck. Quite a bit of the island has been torn up. I mean, look what, Dunfield did even, dug that giant hole in the ground and then just piled it all back in. And all the wood that he would have dragged, pulled up out of there, and it just got piled in. And that's why I was thinking later when they were drilling down in those areas where Dunfield had just pushed all that dirt back in the hole, that lumber is going to be laying every which way in there. And they could have, when they were drilling down into it, and they said, oh, this one was definitely going, standing up. Were they sure?
He was the one that wrecked the ship that had the rocks that had the ship also.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The old picture shows incredible digging. Yeah, it does. If you use forced labor, location doesn't matter. That's true. Yeah, I get that. I get that right. I would, and maybe they were trying to haul it far enough away not to give away any secrets of where it was. I don't know. Hard to say. I think there's more answers to be gained from that. Buildings everywhere. Dunfield spoils. Dunfield spoils were in lot. Oh, I don't know for sure. I'm sorry. I was thinking Dunfield spoils were in lot 16, I thought. Linda says Charles Barkhouse did a whole thing about the boulderless beach and how they are boulderless areas on lots of the islands. He didn't think it had been created unless by weather. Okay. And I tell you what, Charles Barkhouse is a very knowledgeable person on this, so I would tend to believe you're right. If that's what he said, then you're probably right. And thank you for that. Sharon says, I think it might have been a dumping area for all those digs over the centuries. Could be. Yep, it is a real mess.
Real mess.
Yep. I think Wanda says, I think Dunfield put spoils would have been a bigger maybe. Well, he had to fill the hole back in, and he did fill the hole back in. But what did he fill it back in? Did he use the spoils? Did he have them just laying nearby? Or did he truck them off somewhere? Hard to say. I don't know. Maybe Charles would have an answer for that too. Tom says, replying to Chuck, curved shape could just be because they were dumping around the trees. Yep, you could be right. It could be nothing more than a dumping area for the spoils. And it kind of almost seems that way the um, if the spike that was found is dated the same as the spike from OC1 that was dug up from what they think they actually hit some original wood down there, depositor wood. If they did that, and that does match up to be the same, and one's up there at the mound and one's over in the spoils from OC1 that they pulled up out of there 100 feet in the ground, maybe it is. Maybe it is. And I think that's why they're leaning that way now, that it was a spoils pile. And it had been there for a long time. But you're right, Tom. It could be because they were just going around the trees that were there. And that's why it's curved. There are rows of spoils underwater just offshore from that area of the island. Could be that they couldn't get a boat and had to use ox carts to dump it on land somewhere. That was Janet. You could be right. Don says some of the original dig probably ended up in the swamp.
Very possible.
Yeah, very possible. That's kind of what I was thinking too at one point. Linda says if I could get back on the if I could get back on the Oak Island compendium, I would check out Dunfield spoils. I know. Yeah, the compendium's down, isn't it? That was a great site too. Let's see. Jennifer says, I wonder if the British went to Oak Island because they heard of Templars and started searching early 1700s and either gave up or found it.
Possible.
Right. Yep. It is possible. So many possibilities. Yeah, you're right, Tom. Dunfield did wreck that whole portion of the island. And that's why they don't have to have a permit. When they're digging over there and they find something, they don't have to get permits or anything like that on that side of the island because of what Dunfield had done. He really made a mess of things. There's Tony. Tony's here, I guess.
Welcome, Tony.
Yep. I'm glad to have you with us, Tony. Tony, we were talking about you earlier. You got to get out. You got to get back. And we don't know, obviously, because of the way the season's going, but we need to get you back in the water over there off of the swamp area to give us more answers. And you and I gotta talk, Tony. We gotta get you on the show. I need to get you on here quick so we can talk about some stuff. Let's see. Yeah, the old days, easy disposal, toss it in the water. Yep. The compendium is down because Doug forgot to renew the website. He is trying to fix that, but he hasn't yet. It hasn't happened yet. Really? You forgot to renew the website? Well, he has been a busy man. We know that for sure, right? So maybe that's why. Maybe the Germans or the Scottish followed Templars to Oak Island. I hope not. That well,
Scottish possibly.
Yeah, he pulled a Dunfield.
Yeah.
Most of the Dunfield spoils ended up being bulldozed into Smith's Cove. Is that true? I don't know about that. I know that he definitely bulldozed over in Smith's Cove, but I didn't think it was the spoils from where he dug up because he had to fill that hole back in. You think Tom Brent says he thinks Tony Sampson found the Oak Island treasure and doesn't want to share.
Oh, I see how it is.
I think Tony would have some much bigger boats for the Salty Dog sea tours. He'd have some more elaborate boats. Those are nice boats, and I'm not trying to knock your boats, Tony. Those are great boats. I mean, I love them, and I know. But yeah, if you found the treasure, would you even bother with the Salty Dog boat tours? Or just disappear? Cheryl says, I wondered if the Snake Mound is the result of digging. Are there others that have been discovered? Have discovered the same thing. If you're talking about off the island, they do have some other mounds that they found. There's one in Keene,
Ontario.
Ontario, that they found that they were talking about on the show 2 weeks ago, or last week's show. Aaron Taylor was talking about that, and that was pretty well covered. But I don't think those were spoil piles. They were actually built as a mound of some sort, because they definitely have a body and a head of a snake, and then there's some um, other little piles around it. So I don't know. Getting back to the pictures real quick, I just wanted to show this. This is her analysis of the wrought iron nail, the rose head. Observation: Serpent Mound, bottom of the mound, square nail, heavily corroded, and 8 centimeters in length. Iron is very clean. No, oh, that would be your. Um, I just said it a little bit ago. Manganese, perhaps. Let's see, likely 1840 wrought iron style of spike is consistent with pre-1790. Very similar to Artifact 303, which was the other spike that they had found. So, so very interesting that those two, turn out to be, very similar, of the same make and of the same type of steel used in those two, which again leads us back to thinking that maybe the mound is a spoils pile from the original digging of the money pit. And there she is there. Duso, yep, and so Christy Duso, and she's been on the show several times and she does great
St.
analysis.
Mary's, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Where she's from.
Yep. And there's Craig. Craig finally made it out to the island after his 14-day quarantine. Can you imagine? I mean, somebody, these guys, Marty and Craig, have got to be so busy people. They're running a business back in Michigan, a couple of businesses back in Michigan. And then, being able to do that and then have to come over here and spend 2 weeks. He said he got a lot of work done in his 2 weeks of quarantine, but still, I would go stir crazy. I think, knowing that you can still do work, but everything's going to have to be done on the internet and everything. Let's see. Let's see here. Could be a thought that crossed my mind too. Anyway, so Craig gets back out to the island finally, and he wants to go right out to the money pit. And so he gets out there and he's looking at the F.25, and where do they the numbering for these things? It has to be, I was thinking it's got to be Guppy that's coming up with these numbers. These kind of numbers here.
That would be a good question for him.
It's going to be. I'm going to have to ask him. I'm going to write that down too, because I'm going to ask him that question. Are you the one that's coming up with these numbers? F.25-9.75. Okay. I had to take a picture of that and put that up there. Actually, this is Linda's picture here, but so right there between RF1 and OC1. And when they went to the war room and they were talking about it, basically when Craig first got there, they had to say, well, we really didn't find anything. There really isn't anything here to find. That they didn't find the dirt. It wasn't consistent with any kind of tunnel. They didn't hit any wood along the way, anything like that. And they went down to the last thing. I think they went down to about 209 feet. Was about as far down as they went. And they just didn't get any answers. So they were back in the war room when Craig showed up, and they were talking to Craig about the fact that they really didn't have anything, and Craig had a new plan of where he wanted to look. And he wanted to take and go a little bit to the northwest of OC1 and start looking around over there. Now, one of the things that he had mentioned, and again, I go back to these two, what somebody had mentioned there, about the two different eras, the 1300s and the 1700s. Now, Craig had mentioned on the show that the dendrochronology, or the wood sample that they had taken when they pulled up out of OC1, they had some of that wood dated, and it was dated 1706. So they were thinking that was original depositor tunneling support wood. And If that's the case, would that have been Templar? And this is where those dates really start to boggle my mind a bit, because if we're talking about the Templars being there in the 1300s and the swamp was created in the 1220 in the 1200s, then would it have been the Templars that deposited something down there? We know that the Templars would be the ones that would put something that deep underground. Pirates aren't going to bury something that deep underground, not to my knowledge. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that the pirates are going to bury something that deep.
No, they want to be able to dig it right back up and get out again.
Right. So they're going to put it 15, 20 feet deep, maybe 50 at the maximum. Even
And I
50.
can't see the French doing it either because of the situation they were in, especially in that one time.
Mm-hmm. So when we get talking about these different eras, and I'm glad that and again, I don't remember, I mentioned you before when you brought it up, but you talked about the two different eras, Kathy, I think it was. You got the 1300s and you got the 1700s, and everything leads, to one or the other. And 1700s, they keep talking about being some of the original depositors down in the Money Pit area. I'm really confused by that, because I was
And
thinking
then you could really throw in Smith's Cove, and they came up with the 1600s in Smith's Cove.
mm-hmm. So I don't know. Maybe, and like Don said, maybe it was maybe it was the Templars coming back and getting it out of there. I don't know. Maybe they had to make some new tunneling under there. But again, it still goes back to the same thing. People are saying, well, there's nothing there. There's really nothing there to be found. But again, why would there be anything down there? Why would this lumber from 1706 be down there in the first place, that deep underground, if nothing was there or had never been there? That just doesn't make good sense. So we know that there was, and that's the key, and they got to get to that answer. Let's see, I missed some of the chat that's gone by here. Let's see. Same thing, same spikes. I wonder how long the spikes originally were. Well, the one was actually sharpened to a point. They did find it was a point, and they said it could be about 8 to, yeah, there you go. Anne Marie says 8 to 10 centimeters long. And that's where they were saying, yep, about 8 centimeters. It wasn't any longer than that. The end of it had not rotted off. But a spike that short, I mean, that can only be to hold decking down, in my mind anyway, thinking as a carpenter. That's not gonna drive down and hold two logs together like the wood feature they found in the southeast corner of the swamp, where they notched the wood and then they put the two logs down together in the notch and drove a spike down through there. That's not going to be one of those spikes. This is going to be a spike to hold decking down of some sort, or maybe wood, 1.5 inch thick or whatever on the side of a tunnel wall. Then you might use it there, but you're not going to use it to hold two logs together, not that small of a spike. So
Jeff, I can only see Facebook user, but if you look here, something happened in 1704 because Lee Lamb had that rock with that number on it, and I had completely forgotten about that.
oh, you're right. Yeah, let me get to that. I scrolled up a little bit to catch the bit about the spikes. I'll get down to that in just a second. Tom says, wonder if Steve could show us more current map of the island and the general locations of finds. That's a good point. I'd love to find out about that. 1706, Tom says 1706, I think was a recovery mission. And I had just mentioned that too. I think you might be right. Our team Templars, yeah, we got to ask them. Hopefully the Templars didn't make the withdrawal. And I'm gonna think, I don't want to forget my thought that I just occurred to me. But let's see. Something happened in 1704 because Lee Lamb had that rock. That was Deborah Jones. Said that Lee Lamb had that rock with the number on it, and you're right.
And they brought that to the island, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and that wood was dated 1706. And something of that extent that they did under there is going to take more than 1 year to do. So maybe they arrived in 1704 and 1706. They were down there actually doing that work underground. They got to that point, then they bailed out of there shortly thereafter. Let's see. Pam Block says, who was around between 1200 and 1700s? I don't know. But that's a very good point, Deborah. That really is a good point. 1704. That does tie that back together, doesn't it? For centuries, the privilege, the Illuminati. The Illuminati, she brought up we brought up the Illuminati with Gretchen last Saturday. Maybe the searchers in the 1700s didn't have the correct map or couldn't decipher the map correctly. Don says, come on, Jeff, it's a finishing nail. Yeah, that's a finishing nail. Yeah, it's a finishing nail. That's exactly what it is. 1200 would be the Vikings. Yeah. Now, I was going to make this point. You made me think of this. Talking about the 1704, and there was some talk a while back about and I forget who came up with this theory. Jack, you or Linda or one of our members will remember this. That they had said, somebody had said that the money or the treasure that was in the money pit somebody went back, dug it up, got it out of there because the message had been passed down from the Templars to the Freemasons that founded the United States of America, and they had gone back because they were told about the treasure. So they went back up to Nova Scotia. They went down there, they got the treasure, and they used the gold and whatnot to fund the American Revolution. Oh,
Yes.
you just put your head down. Are you?
I'm trying to think of. I remember in the war room. It was in
Yeah,
the war room that was done.
it was one of the theorists had come in and talked about this. I thought you were going to say, oh, Jeff brought that up. No, don't go there, Gene. What are you talking about?
No, I agree with you, but I cannot think of. I can't think of the person who was there.
Now, yeah. Now, would they have done that? Now, the Revolution, 1776. So 1704. That's a little bit early to be going back and getting that money to fund it. 70 years later, those guys would be dead by then. I don't know. Don, that's what Don said. Yeah, to finance the American Revolution.
It ended in '76, but they were fighting in the '70s.
I don't know. Doesn't those dates seem kind of odd? I mean,
Linda just said Court Liddell. Maybe
yeah, we
it
got
might
to
have been Court.
He's about the American Revolution, among others. Yeah. There was a guy that was on. I think he was in season 1, wasn't he? Season 1 or season 2. There was a guy on that was talking about that. We got to get him on the show. We got to dig that up, Linda. Remind me. I think you might already know who it is. Quinson, maybe, I don't know, but we got to find out about that, because man, that's a lot of dates around that 1700s. Well, anyway, I should probably move on. I'm probably all wet with that whole idea anyway, but anyway, it just seemed like 1700s, 1776, the money, somebody went back and got the treasure. So much of it dates in the 1700s. Petter was season 1. It was Francis Bacon. Depends on the treasure. Who said that? Cheryl said, depends on what the treasure is. We are assuming it's golden treasure or biblical artifacts. Yeah, I know. Might have been in Randall's book. Yeah, it might have been. Then Daniel Rothstam. Yeah, we're going to see about getting him too. Within 15 years. If the dates are within 15 years, that's close enough. I don't know. Like I said, maybe I'm all wet with that thought, but it was just one of those thoughts that occurred to me that, when you're talking to 1700s, a lot of things took place in North America and the founding of this country in the 1700s. And there was a theorist that said that they had used that money was used to fund the American Revolution. Sharon had said, sorry, I'm Scottish and 23% Scandinavian on my dad's side, and we ended up in Canada and New England. Ben Franklin, George Washington was in that area. Yes, they were. And that was already proven because they were landowners at one point, a couple of them. Thomas
Franklin
Jefferson.
owned like 23,000 acres or
Yeah, yeah. So they knew, and Nova Scotia, that area was initially going to be the 13th colony. There was people talking about that. It was going to be the 13th colony, and instead they let the British have it. I think at that time the British were in control of it, or the French. I think it was the British, and they backed out of there. And they decided, okay, we'll take the state that was Vermont and New Hampshire, split it in half, and made it 2 states, and called that the 13th. Added those, made the 13 colonies. Yeah, exactly. Wanda says that too. Nova Scotia was supposed to be the 13th colony, and that's why they were up there. So they may have no, and if they're Masons, Freemasons, they may have known about the treasure or had heard about it, and they went there and dug it up.
and the French might have known about it also, because they're coming over to help the Americans.
We need to go on the show. Let's get all of our members that are here. We got 22 people, all of you and us. We need to go on the show and tell them our theory. I know I'm probably all wet with it. Let's see. I agree. 1700s are going to be a critical piece of information, no matter what the final answer is. I totally agree with you, Tom. The 13th colony. Don agrees. Yep, 13th colony. Ronstam was the corn to shut off the flood tunnels theorist. You're right. That's right. He was. And note that the number 13 is important. Yes, and that's why there was 13 initial colonies. You got that tree of life with the 13 branches on it. So many things, and the Friday the 13th. That 13 all ties together. It really does.
1307. Friday the 13th.
Yep. Friday the 13th. And that's where that whole 13 thing, I think, got started. Let's see. There was a whole drilling down about the revolution. I'm going to have to review that. Yeah, I'm going to have to review that again.
That was William. Was it William Shatner? I think it was William Shatner was on with that.
I think it was mentioned on William Shatner's show. I think you're right. I think it was mentioned on his show. It was mentioned, but I don't know if that's what the drilling down was all about. But there was one. You're right. We're gonna have to dig into that. I snapped this picture here for 2 reasons. One was just showing where they're digging, where they're punching the holes in the ground with the bore holes, looking for stuff there. And I'm going to come back to this picture because there was something else I wanted to point out about that. Here's real quick. I'm going to finish up these pictures, and then we can get back to just sharing everybody's ideas because we are closing on 2 hours here. This here is the map of the all the drill boreholes and caissons in the Money Pit area, and I wanted to point this out because Linda says it was Shatner's drilling down the whole episode. Okay, thank you. Templars executed on Friday the 13th. Yep. The reason I wanted this because I'm showing here on this picture. This is where Craig was talking about where he wants to drill. Next, when he got out there, of course, this was back last summer, but he pointed out on this map where he wanted to do some drilling. Now, he was talking about, and thank you, Linda, for this, and I've got this. I keep wanting to put this in a frame, and I'm glad that I have not done so yet, but this is my map that Linda got for me from the Oak Island team. This map of all the caissons and boreholes that were done up to this point, and I'm looking for the date on here because I've forgotten what it is. I don't see the date on here, but this is not. It's not current to season 8, of course. But I wanted to point out on this is where they were doing most of their drilling that they found nothing that they were talking about over from D8 and D11. And I'm going to hold this up here if you guys can see this. This square area right here is the head and shaft area. That's this square. And these areas right here are where they've been doing the drilling that Terry Matheson and Charles Barkhouse had been doing the drilling around here where they found nothing. What Craig Tester wants to do is drill over here in this area. He wants to get out here in this open area where they have done no drilling and start popping holes in over here. This big circle right here is the Dunfield, what they're calling the Dunfield area, where Dunfield dug that whole area up. And again, the head and shaft over here. So they want to, whoops, it's hard to point out it, but they want to start drilling over here, put some boreholes in over here. Now that would be this being north and this being east. So they want to start punching holes over in this area. And that's what he's trying to show on this map right here. You can see the very top of the Hedden shaft. You can see Hedden's shaft. It's written right there. It's a little blurry, but that's what it says right there. And so they're going to start punching areas out here, or did, and that's what Craig wanted to do, northeast of the Hedden shaft, and they wanted to start punching holes out there. Now, they did drill down and find what Terry Matheson was saying, a tunnel area or a void area, not a big one, but a small one, about 100 feet down out in that area. So now we know that that was really the whole thing. I mean, they spent some time in the money pit, not a whole lot on last night's show, but that was the key takeaway from that, in my mind anyway, was that they're finding something out there. And I think it was Charles Barkhouse had said that area is virtually unexplored and was not used for searcher tunnels. Is that right? Is that what you?
Yeah, they kind of left us hanging on that one too, because they wanted to go down another 20 feet or so to see, before they gave up on anything, and they cut us off right there at the pass.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, they did. So anyway, but that's where Craig wants to drill, and they did drill down in there. We did get that little piece, and they cut us off, like you said. But they definitely, they think they found a void area down there in that spot. Oh, here's a picture I took of my map. This is the map that I have, and again, thank you, Linda, because this thing is awesome. It's supposed to be current through season 7. It has. It was October 2020 when they printed it for the auction, but it's up to season 7. Now this is a little clearer. You can see on here. And again, this is the original Hedden shaft, this square. And then they were doing their drilling. Here's D and E10. And so this is where they were drilling their boreholes. There's D9, D8's over here, and that was on the show. So anyway, this is where they were punching their holes. But out here is where Craig Tester wants to start punching holes, is out in this area. And so apparently they did find a void. Now we don't know if that was a flood tunnel. We don't know what it was. And I think it was Terry Matheson that said it wasn't very big, whatever it was. So that was very interesting. So yeah, I threw a little picture of my map in there. And this thing is so cool. This thing is so cool to look at. It's kind of confusing, but it is really cool to have my little piece of Oak Island that I have, thanks to Linda. So, wow. I mean, there was a lot of stuff, and I didn't really think we'd have a lot to cover tonight, but boy, we sure did. There's that last picture that, showing Tony that. And I want to find out from you, Tony, if you're still here. I don't know if you're still here or not. If that was a piece of wood, or was that a rock, or was that a piece of what do you think that was? You were scanning it right there, or metal detecting it, and there was no hits that we know of. But I'm really curious what that thing was. And maybe you can't tell us. I don't know. But I'm really, really, really curious. If you're still out there, Tony, I'd like to find out what do you think that piece was that was down there, because that was certainly interesting to see. But anyway, so what else? What else do you guys? What else was the takeaway that you had about last night's episode? I know some people. Oh yeah, so the 13th still coming up. The 13 is definitely an important number to the Revolution, to the Templars, to the Stonemasons, the Freemasons. 13 is a very important number to them, and they used it in many, many different areas. So it does have a very good reference to many different things. Maybe 13 levels down to where the every 10 feet, 13 down. I don't know. What do you think? Maybe it was 13 levels down to find the treasure. I don't know. Let's see. They showed. Oh, they're talking about the drilling down. Yeah, they showed on the Shatner one. Yep. Let's see. I'll go back here a little bit and see about some of the other messages. Um, Tom said 2 hours seems like 10 minutes. I know my throat's getting a little raw. I've been talking so much. Tom Burns says maybe we'll get the answer in season 13. There you go.
There you go.
You nailed it. You nailed it. Season 13 will be the final answer. You could be right. Let's see. Oh, Pat took off. Good night, Pat. Probably already gone. Let's see here. Yeah, it looks like a beam. Sharon said it looked like a beam. So anyway, that's pretty much what I had. Did you have anything else for last night, Jack?
No, I'm good, Jeff.
All right. How about you folks? Did you guys have any other takeaways from last night? You know, and I noticed too that they didn't really do a promo for next week, did they? I didn't see
No, they went right into the next show.
Yeah, they went
completely.
right into that other TV show, which is a good show. I kind of like that other show that's on that follows it now. And I did want to mention to you also that the show Beyond, in our group name is The Curse of Oak Island and Beyond. And we do want to talk about the show, the Beyond Oak Island show a little bit, and also things that are a little bit beyond just not Oak Island, not necessarily related to Oak Island as well. And that's what the Beyond part is about, because we will step outside of the Oak Island. Right now, it's all about Oak Island because of the show, being on Tuesday night. We gotta emphasize that, and there's so much to talk about. I mean, goodness, I've been ratchet jawing on for 2 hours now about it, but that's the thing, is that there's so much information, and I know they just keep feeding us a little bit, but it's that little bit that carries us through. And yeah, Wanda said no preview for next week, so I'm really curious about why that was. We're gonna have to look in the guide. Is there a show next week? They usually say next time on The Curse of Oak Island, and they show it going down 10x, but they didn't do that last night, so I'm really curious why and what that means.
Oh,
Tom says glad to see they are getting more specific, verifiable information about finds. Yep. And that's why they brought in the dreaded archaeologists, because they want to get more information, and they're using more teams, and they've grown. Obviously, you've seen what's happened. The whole the team has grown to such larger group of people now, and it just continues to. Now we got Miriam out there for an archaeologist. We had Liz out there as an archaeologist. So there's 4 archaeologists. With Laird has been working on the island. Of course, Stephen Guppy, that's been out there. He's going out there doing all his GPS coordinates and whatnot. So and the team is growing, and it's just great. They really need to do that because they want to get some answers and bring in the experts. Did they? Wanda said they did that last week also. Did they? Yes. Show for next week.
I don't remember. I'll be real honest.
Yeah, I thought they did. Linda says they showed the promo. It wasn't right after the show or right after the show ended, but it was like the first commercial in the new show that they were doing, that they talked about, that they showed the promo. And I watched.
I was trying to read my scribble about them to figure out what I had written down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I watched the first episode of. There was 2 episodes last night, half hours or something, that they did of the new show. I forgot the name of it for some reason. Forgot the name of that show, but and I like it. It's a pretty good show, but they didn't show the promo for this. So next week, Rocky Road, 1/19/21. Okay, cool. The growing size of the team is a message in itself. Yes, it is. That's for sure. I wonder how many people are working on the island. I don't know. I really don't have a clue now. I mean, if you're talking about all the cameramen and all the Prometheus people too, I don't know. But
When you look at the overhead shots and the drone shots, there are a lot of cars on the parking lots of that island.
Yeah, when they show the parking lot over there at the end of the causeway, there is a lot of cars parked over there. Yeah, January 19th is called Rocky Road. The proof is out there. Oh, the proof is out there is the name of that other show. Thank you, Wanda. yeah, the proof is out there, and I kind of like it because they debunk some of that stuff. And we've seen that video. I'll mention this real quick before we go, but they showed that the guy did such a great job. It was a fake. He created it. It was all CGI, but it was looking down the railroad tracks, and it shows what that ball of electricity kind of cruising along and going up over the tracks, and it kind of zaps the tracks a little bit, like discharges a little bit on the tracks, and then it discharges into a light pole, and sparks fall down, and then it goes across the tracks down the other way. And that was well done. I mean, it was on the internet, and a lot of people had said it was fake at that time, and they proved it was. And even the guy said it was. He had made it in CGI, but that was pretty cool. But I do kind of like that show. It's pretty interesting. And they're not trying to fake anything, I think, on there as well. They're showing the truth of it by analyzing the videos. Telltale had a 20, about 20. Bet it's more now. Oh, about how many people? How many people are working on the island? Yeah, probably. Not counting the cameramen and all those people. You're probably right. Probably about 20 now. And that means a lot. And I think they're doing that. It's a good thing to see that happening because of the fact that they need to bring in more experts to get down to the end of this. And they're doing more work, and they need more people on there. The production company is Telltale Productions from Halifax. Thank you, Linda. That's why they could film, etc., during the lockdown and the marine, in the maritime Nova Scotia. Yeah, you're right. So about 20 people. So anyway, folks, man, I've had a lot of fun again tonight, and I love all the interaction. Great to see you guys responding and talking about stuff. And and again, I say this all the time, but that's what this is all about. And I just love to share and talk with you guys about all this stuff. And I think this was a good opportunity, a good time. I had fun tonight. I don't know. How about you, Jack?
Oh, I had a ball, and I want to thank our members for all the conversations that we had. I mean, that makes our night go so well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know. Me too. I look forward to Tuesday night, but I also look forward to Wednesday night to be able to come on here. And like I said, I don't get that much of an opportunity during the week to really dig into the group messages as much as I'd love to, simply because I work, and when I get off work and I come home and I got stuff to do here and all that. But I'd love to spend more time reading a lot of the group chat. I do try it to get in there as much as I can. Let's see. Don said very early on, didn't they talk about the tunnels on the European coast and how well built they were by Templars?
Yes.
Had that come up anymore? I don't know. I haven't heard it mentioned. Huh. Thank you all. Really good show. Good night. Yeah. Good night, everybody. And I want to say that again. Just thank you so much for being here and hanging out with us. Really enjoy it. And I have such a blast doing this stuff. And hopefully the mic worked out all right. And I get my other one working as soon as I can. But anyway, thank you so much for being here. Thank you again, Jack Campbell, my co-host, for being on here with us. And thank you, Linda Simpson, out there, and all the hard work you do each and every week and every day. And late at night, she gets messages. I get private messages at night. I sleep right through it. She wakes up and answers these things in the middle of the night. Don't let her sleep. Please let her get her rest.
Yeah.
Don't bother her at 3 o'clock in the morning. But anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. And again, Jan Anderson, thank you so much for your synopsis. Wonderful job. We appreciate you so much. And all you members, we appreciate all you. Hey, everybody, have a good night. And don't forget, nobody on this coming Saturday. I got a Saturday off, but the next 4 in a row, check the schedule we have on the group message board, and you'll see what's coming up. Thank you again. Good night, everybody.